Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. Joined as always by my main man at FFSnoog. Guys, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. We just hit 4,000 subs. We're on our way to 5,000, halfway there. Snoog, we got a great show tonight. We're going to talk. Everybody said, hey, you did the Dynasty tiers of the running backs. We want to see what you guys think about wide receivers. And this wide receiver landscape is changing just daily. It's a wild landscape right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. In my rankings, I have about 20 foundational wide receivers, just players that you look at, you can build your team around, you can be confident in them. They're young, they're, below that 26, 27-year-old age. So I'm excited to jump into this one, give you guys our top 35-ish players, all worth a first. And we're going to jump into this and break down each tier, why they're in that tiers, what a trade up looks like, what a trade down looks like. And we're going to kind of break down the process for you. So I'm excited for this show.
Yeah, and we're in a great time in Dynasty right now because the wide receiver position is deeper than ever. Like Snook alluded to, we're going to cover 35 wide receivers, all of whom are worth at least a 26 first. We have more foundational wide receivers than ever. Once we get to that second tier, into the third tier, you're going to be like, dang, this is like deeper than it's been since 2017 when we started to really get an influx of the running backs, but we had that old guard of wide receivers. Snook, kick us off here. We have S tier. This is our smash tier. These are the guys that, like, in your startup, they're going round one. They're guys that are elite foundational assets. When you try to trade for one of these players, it's 3+ firsts. You are not trading these guys. These are guys that you're building your team around. You and I have a different wide receiver one, but hit me with your Dynasty wide receiver one overall.
Yeah, for me, it's Ja'Marr Chase. I think the three guys we're going to talk about in this tier are guys that you're not trading unless you have an awful team and you're rebuilding. Like, that is the mentality that you have with these players. They're going to win you leagues. They're going to win you weeks. They're going to be guys that you can rely on for 8 to 10 years. Ja'Marr Chase, coming off the wide receiver one overall season, had the Triple Crown, absolute stud of a player. Don't need to get into the weeds there. Tied to Joe Burrow long-term. Bad defense. Team needs to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. It's just lights out cupcake situation for him, and he's still under the age 25, 26 years old. So for me, foundational asset, the wide receiver one in Dynasty for me still until Malik Neighbors gets a quarterback.
So my wide receiver one is Malik Neighbors, and the difference being Ja'Marr Chase is 25 years old. You know that I put that tweet out last year before the draft. You and I were as high up on Neighbors as possible. When you look at their actual production and college profiles, their size, their speed, everything matches up. It's literally down to the T on statistics from Ja'Marr Chase as Malik Neighbors. You and I were saying Malik Neighbors is Ja'Marr Chase 2.0, and he literally is. So the reason I'm saying this in Dynasty, and you and I do this a lot, we're trying to get one step ahead of the curve. Ja'Marr Chase is 25. Malik Neighbors is 21 years old. Chase had 175 targets. Malik Neighbors, 170 targets in 2 less games. He is someone that is going to eat, one of 4 wide receivers in NFL history to post over 1,000 yards and 100 receptions as a rookie. A lot of people say, Dad, you got to just pump the brakes. You should wait on this. I'm sorry. If you wait any longer on Malik Neighbors, you're just not getting him. Snoog and I tried to tell you how to get him last year. At this point, I've been telling people I would take Neighbors and a second for Chase, and I think if I move that way, I shave 4 years off that window of being a foundational wide receiver, where Snoog, you and I say, well, foundational wide receivers, it used to be 25 and under. Because of guys like Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, we switched it to 26. But when we say foundational assets, guys, we're talking about guys that you build your team around it. When I'm rebuilding in 4 years, where I'm in the middle of, or 3 years when I'm in the middle of my dominant era, if I take a guy that's 27, he's 30. But if I take a guy like Malik Neighbors, who's 21 years old, he'll be in that 24, 25 range. And that's why I have Malik Neighbors as my Dynasty wide receiver one. I can't fault anybody for having Chase, and I feel like I can't fault anybody for having this next guy.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. I mean, I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. I just think you can give the slight lean to Ja'Marr Chase with the quarterback situation or Malik Neighbors with the age gap. But Justin Jefferson, the only wide receiver, 5 straight years over 1,000 yards since entering the league. He's set so many records since joining. He's tied to Kevin O'Connell's Minnesota passing attack. J.J. McCarthy is just going to be a fine starting quarterback for him to get the job done. This is a guy coming off 1,500+ yards and 100+ receptions with a different quarterback last year. They thought it was going to be McCarthy. He got injured. It was Sam Darnold. He still balled out. So without Kirk Cousins, he was elite. He's always going to be elite no matter who's throwing him the football. We saw what he did with Nick Mullins. Like, it don't matter. He's an absolute stud. He's a foundational asset. 26-year-old player, but he's going to be good till he's 35, 36 years old. That's the type of player he is. Larry Fitz, Jerry Rice, that type of build. I'm confident Justin Jefferson's going to be a guy that you can rely on for another 6 to 10 years. So for me, he deserves to be in this tier as well. And then it's a tier break. Like, those three guys, set it, forget it, smash elite tier. You can rely on them to be league winners for a long time till your dynasty league's basically over.
Yeah, and then the next part here, we move down to our A tier. And in our A tier, we call that our foundational wide receiver ones. These are guys that don't have the same value as your Chase, your Neighbors, your Jefferson. This first guy really should. I mean, you could argue he's in a tier of his own. You could argue that he's on the fringe of being in that smash tier after, an elite first couple of years. Last year struggled a little bit. And we talk about CeeDee Lamb. I mean, 2020 had a 74, 935, and 5 touchdowns as a rookie. Then you saw his sophomore year, he goes up over 79, 1,006. Snoog. Then we had that monster 2022 where the writing was on the wall for that breakout, 107 receptions. 2023 was a monster. I mean, you could argue he was the dynasty wide receiver 1 at that point. It was him and Jefferson, 135 receptions, 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns. Snoog, we are about to see a 2025 re-emergence of CeeDee Lamb as a top 3 dynasty wide receiver, top 3, top 4. You see the writing's on the wall. Poor defense, lack of a run game, a league-winning bounce back for CeeDee Lamb here as the wide receiver 4 in Dynasty. There's a slight gap here, but you got to love the next guy as well.
I was going to say, I think Lamb is closer to the 3 we just talked about than he is with the guys we're about to talk about now. But I just don't think he's quite in that tier with those 3. But Amon-Ra St. Brown's my wide receiver 5 in Dynasty. This is a guy that's had 100-plus receptions in 3 seasons, over 1,100 yards in all those years, 10, 12 touchdowns the past couple of seasons. Yes, Ben Johnson's gone, but he's still the face and the power of this offense. Yes, they want to run the ball. They want to go through Gibbs. They want to go through Montgomery in the ground game. But in that passing attack, we know who the volume player is going to be, and Jared Goff is going to absolutely feed him. Things aren't going to change. He has the same quarterback with the same head coach. Creative plays aren't going to be as flowing with Ben Johnson. They still have the same concepts, the same kind of offensive scheme that offense had in play for the multiple years Ben Johnson was there. Things aren't going to get that much different, in my opinion. Amon-Ra St. Brown, just still 25 years old. He's an anchor. He's a guy that can be good till he's 30 because he's not a guy that relies on 4.3 speed or 6'4" size. So elite slot receiver, one of the best in the game. And he's a tough player that's going to be good for a while. Foundational asset as well.
Yeah, the next guy for me, just 22 years old. The other guy from LSU, and you guys are gonna say Dad's an ageist. I'm old, man. I got to get my young guys. I got to stack this team up. We talk about you Ben Johnson leaving Detroit. Let's talk about Jacksonville, where Brian Thomas Jr. now gets Liam Cohen after a monster elite rookie season, 1,200 yards. He was 2.68 yards per route run. That was 7th. 10 touchdowns. That was 5th. 562 yards after the catch. That's 4th. And Snoog, he's the only guy to finish in the top 10 with a target share under 26%. Every single other guy above him did it with a heavy target share. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to bump him down because of Travis Hunter. I'm sorry, I'm bumping him up because of Travis Hunter. Now they have another guy that's going to take a little bit of that heat off him. Brian Thomas Jr., just like we saw his final year in college, he's got 15-plus touchdown upside. He had 10 this year. I put that out there on Twitter last year, and people were yelling that no wide receiver has that as a rookie. Snoog, he has the ability to put up 17 touchdowns in college. I think he has the skill set in the pros to translate that to a 15 to 18 touchdown season and will be a wide receiver 1. 2 more guys in this tier. The next guy I absolutely love. We talked about rookies that exploded. Nobody's came more out of left field to dominate than Puka Nacua.
Yeah, the next 2 guys we're going to talk about, I think, have literally top 2 upside as a finisher and like a redraft perspective. Puka Nacua has broken a ton of records and been so elite on a per route basis. He was the most productive wide receiver last year on a per route basis. He's joining one of 5 wide receivers to ever put up 100-plus receptions and 1,000-plus yards as a rookie. He's done so many things since entering the league. Yard per route run numbers are through the roof, and he's just been an absolute stud since joining the league. So I think if you're looking at what Puka Nacua is in that offense with Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, in a team that, is going to rely on throwing the football at his age at 23, 24 years old, I think he is such a stud wide receiver that in this case, the production, the age, and the situation he's tied to is going to drive his value through the roof and keep him in that top 8 to 7 range, which is why he's there for me. Dad, he has, and same with the next guy that you're going to hit on, they both have the quarterback, the situation, and the offensive-minded coaches to help put them through the roof as a top 3 finisher if they put it all together and stay healthy. That's the big part with both of them.
Yeah, what's wild for me about Puka Nacua is after his rookie year, people were still trying to discount it. You look at what he's done in his first 2 years since he's been in the league. 3.61 yards per route run, number 1 in all of football. 23.5 success rate per route run, number 1. 38.3 target share, number 1. 17.8 first down rate, number 1. And everybody's like, okay, well, but Cooper Kupp's not there. Now they get Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is only going to, you're seeing him at camp. He's teaching Puka Nacua, how to be a better wide receiver. The next guy I love on this list, I'm big when it comes to yards per route run. And Nico Collins is that guy for me. Finished 3rd last year, 3.07 yards per route run. Over those first 5 weeks, Snoog, he was on pace to be the wide receiver 1 overall. The wide receiver 1 overall from year to year has to have 175 targets, has to have 1,500 plus yards. He was going to smash those. 30 receptions. He was 2nd in the league over that time. 1st in yards, 489. 1st in offensive grade. 1st in receiving grades. 3rd in yards per route run. This is someone that Snoog, I don't care if he's 26 years old and a lot of people are starting to discount him. You and I did a show. Nico Collins, we're buying everywhere. He belongs in this tier. You convinced me. I don't care about the age. The gap is there where in this particular tier, we had our S tier. Those guys set it and forget it, right? We have our Chase, we have our Neighbors, we have our Jefferson. You guys can see that over here on the side. Lamb and Amon-Ra. Lamb in particular has a gap between these guys. But if you can get any difference between Amon-Ra, BTJ, Puka, Nico Collins, these are guys that go in second round.
Like any second would be awesome on top of any of them.
But what's nice though, Snoog, is you got BTJ and Puka in here who are 22, 23. Then you have Amon-Ra, Nico, who are 26. There's deals to be made, right? Like you can literally, if you're rebuilding, get one of these guys plus a second. And if you're contending, you got there's so much value to be had
plus
here.
Kamara.
The next tier is where the money is made. The next tier is like, I got to see what's happening. This is our B tier. We call this our foundational fringe wide receiver 1s. Snoog, this is our wide receiver 9 through wide receiver 16. Snoog and I have different rankings. If you guys want to check that out, got the link down below here, patreon.com/smashaccept. You get my rankings. You get Snoog's rankings. What's really nice about this and what a lot of people really, try to talk about that are in the Discord is, one, Snoog's a talent guy. Snoog's a tape guy. He breaks things down. I'm a value guy. I'm here to say Snoog's pointing this talent out. I'm telling you how to make this trade. This is where the value is on the market. This is what I'm doing. When you pair those together, it's a lethal combination. So, that's really what we're trying to do. So $5 a month, you can check that out. And we're running some promos over there. So go over to patreon.com/smashaccept. Snoog, we're into that fringe wide receiver 1 range. Who is your wide receiver 9 overall in Dynasty right now and the leader of the B tier for you?
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of a hot take, even though I don't really think it should be. It's still Marvin Harrison Jr. I think his upside as a prospect, as a player, with his pedigree and what he flashed last year as a rookie in a struggling offense, a team that really couldn't throw the ball well. Kyler had a down year. The offensive coach had a down year. 22 years old, still had 880 plus yards, 60 receptions, and 8 touchdowns. He should have had like 14 touchdowns. Like if you watch the tape, you watched him on the football field, he was very, very good. He was separating at a high level. Him and Kyler just could not get on the same page, and a lot of it was on Kyler Murray. So I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. has the upside that, a Garrett Wilson, a Drake London, a Jackson Smith and Jigba, some of these guys out there putting up 100 receptions and 1,100, 1,200 yards. Marvin Harrison can for sure damn do that. I'm confident. I promise you he can do that. And when he does do that, his value is going to jump through the roof compared to these other guys because of the pedigree, because of the type of player he was in prospect coming out with that 4th overall draft capital attached. I really think people just want to see that 1,000 yard mark put on your profile as a rookie, just because like Garrett Wilson, Malik Neighbors, Puka, JSN, or not JSN, Jamar Chase, some of these other guys have done it. But Marvin Harrison Jr. was that close to doing it. And he was that close to like 14 touchdowns. That's how many times he had big opportunities. So big year, 116 targets. It took Drake London 3 years to hit 1,000 yards. It took CeeDee Lamb 2 years to hit 1,000 yards. It took T. Higgins multiple years to hit 1,000 yards. Not everybody just goes and puts up 1,500 yards as a rookie. Amon-Ra didn't hit it until year 2. So I'm confident that Marv's going to take that jump.
I'm glad you mentioned Drake London. That's the guy that I'm confident that I am 99% sure will join A tier by the end of the year. This is someone that you look what he did last year, 158 targets. Snoog, only 108 of the 158 were catchable targets. Those kind of things matter. Michael Penix Jr. is a very accurate quarterback. He was on the cusp of greatness. When you look at last year, Drake London finished as the wide receiver 5, not in fantasy points per game. Fantasy points per game, I think he was more like 8 to 11. But the games that he played with Michael Penix Jr., 23.1 fantasy points per game. That's wide receiver 2. 7 receptions and 117 yards per game. This is your Drake London breakout season. You're going to get him in that late 2nd, early 3rd now in startups. He was falling further than that. It's done. Everybody knows this is going to happen. The writing's on the wall. If you could still get Drake London for anybody in A tier and you get yourself a first on top, you do it. I don't even care if it's CeeDee Lamb. Like, CeeDee Lamb is phenomenal, but Drake London is going to take that next step. I am super confident in that. Dynasty Dad approved. Set it and forget it. So let's look at, I just heard a speeder jet just fly by Snoog's house. Who is your wide receiver 11? And this one, Snoog, honestly, this is splitting hairs because I do think Drake London, it should be considered over the rest of this group. But 11 through 16, we're talking about some real dogs, some wide receivers that I want to build my fantasy team around.
The most talented wide receiver in this tier is Garrett Wilson. Hands down, set it and forget it. But he's on the damn New York Jets, and that matters. And the people that say, oh, well, Garrett Wilson hasn't fully put it all together. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. Drake London didn't put up 1,000 yards until year 3. Garrett Wilson did it every single season. And people use excuses for Drake London as to why he wasn't that good, why he was struggling, the run-heavy offense, the QB play was bad. Garrett Wilson's on the Jets. He's had like 12 different starting quarterbacks since joining the league. Every single year, he shows up. 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, 1,100 yards. Last year, 100-plus receptions. I know he's going to put it all together one year and finish as a top 5 player a couple of times. I don't know if it's going to come with Fields or if it's going to come with the 14th starting quarterback that he's going to play with. But at some point in time, he's going to do it because I do think he can play and produce like a Drake London, like a Marv, like a Nico, like these other guys, Puka Nacua. He's on that talent level as all those guys. He just needs to get the damn quarterback and have a coach. They didn't even have a coach last year. Like, that matters. People don't want to admit it. People want to be biased. Coach, QB play. Two most important things that you could ask for when trying to be productive as a young wide receiver.
100%. He's a top 5 actual talent. The next guy here, we love the Ohio State products. For me, Jackson Smith-Njigba is my dynasty. I actually have him above Garrett Wilson, but I look at last year, 10 targets in 6 of his games. During those games, he had 18.4 fantasy points per game. 2nd overall in routes run win rate. Elusive after the catch, 477 yards. That was 7th in juke rate. He's just a volume monster. And Snoog, I mean, I think there is a little to no chance that he does not make that ascension. I think he did last year. You talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. You look at that rookie season, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith-Njigba, they had that mediocre rise, and then year 2 they blew up. I think we're going to see that with Marv, and I think this is the year where we see Jackson Smith-Njigba go from a dynasty darling to a household name. This is someone that right now, top 12 dynasty wide receiver. You and I loved him in college. If Sam Darnold can be a shell of what he was in Minnesota, if he can be 80% of that, you're going to see a guy that's going to pepper his wide receiver 1. Darnold was looking Jefferson's way early and often last year. There is not a lot around in Seattle. Cooper Kupp, we'll see what happens there. But Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to smash in 2025. Wide receiver 13. Here we go.
Yeah, you know I love chasing upside. I think this player that I'm about to talk about and maybe one other player who's also a rookie are the only players in the rest of this tier that can make the jump into the next tier, because I do think that Travis Hunter being drafted second overall, the type of talent, the type of athlete he is, okay, yes, he's going to play defense. That's been known. We all know that he's going to play some defense. He is going to be a foundational offensive weapon for this Jaguars offense. And the way Liam Cohen is going to use him, he's going to be a slot menace. He's going to win with his feet. He's going to win downfield. He can turn 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls. He is an unbelievable route runner and separator and athlete. I think he has so much upside to be a superstar wide receiver that when he comes out and starts playing offense right away and he starts balling out, that the Jags aren't just going to be like, I want you to play more defense because we need a corner and I want you to play defense. Like, if he's a nasty receiver and he is balling out on that offense and that offense is putting up points and winning games, they're not going to do that. And I can promise you that they're not just going to mess up what he's doing. They're still going to play him on defense. They'll give him special opportunities on third downs against special wide receivers that are out there who they're going up against. But it's clear as day. And the people that are out there saying he's going to be 50-50, he's not going to play a lot of offense, he's not going to be good at offense, stop lying to yourself, because this is a talent that you don't take him second overall just because he's decent at both. You take him second overall because he's the best at both. That's why you take him second overall. That's why you give up your future first. And that's why Travis Hunter is my wide receiver 13.
And this is where we differ is, again, I'm playing market value. He's going talent. He loves himself some Wilson and Hunter. I love Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's value right now finishes the wide receiver 11, 17.8 fantasy points per game from weeks 8 through 18. He's a guy that finished top 3 in yards per route run, top 7 in separation, top 12 in yards per or yards against man. I mean, like, he is someone that with this Justin Herbert-led offense, you're not going to see crazy volume, but the wide receiver 1 there is going to be Ladd McConkey. And I think Trey Harris has just opened things up for him. You know, last year, all they had was Quentin Johnston on the outside. You know, I think Trey Harris is only going to add to this. The only reason Ladd McConkey is not a top 10 dynasty wide receiver is this offense. This offense is not going to throw the ball. It's going to be predicated around Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris running the ball. And now it sounds like they want Justin Herbert to run the ball a little bit more. So Ladd McConkey. And what's great about this, and this is what I love about Dynasty, is Snoog and I don't agree with this tier. We agree that who belongs in this tier. We don't agree where they are. And the nice part is if Snoog and I want to trade Garrett Wilson and Ladd McConkey, now we create a nice opportunity where we can get our guy, you know, and you can move around. And that's what I love about this. This is why we keep talking shop 24/7, because iron sharpens iron. Snoog knows his players. I know my values. When we put it together, we put together some sexy trades for you guys. So let's take a look at the next one. 15, you talked about your rookie wide receiver 1. This is my rookie wide receiver 1, but tell me why Teteroy and McMillan belongs in this tier.
Yeah, and I think if you want to go with the floor, you want to go with the safety, Ladd McConkey and Tet McMillan over Travis Hunter. I'm not going to fight you on it. I think that's perfectly reasonable and perfectly fine. Tet McMillan also has crazy upside like Travis Hunter, and I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie, and he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Panthers. Dave Canales got his wide receiver 1. He got his Mike Evans. Teteroy McMillan was always an elite prospect. We always all knew that. I don't know why people out there on Twitter and people are trying to say he's not. He's overrated. He can't separate, all that stuff. You're wrong. He's good. He's great. He went 8th overall. All the buzz that he wasn't even going to go in the top 15, top 20 of the draft. You're wrong. He went top 8 for a reason. He's an elite prospect. He had back-to-back 1,300-plus yard seasons in this offense. Broke out as a true freshman. Like, he can do it all. Scores touchdowns, win downfield. He's fluid through the middle of the field, can run routes. He does everything you want. He's got the QB play. He's got the coach, and he has a bad defense where they're going to need to throw the damn ball a ton. That screams fantasy points to me. I really don't mind taking Tet over Travis Hunter. I actually think it's probably the safer, smarter route to go with. I just love going all in on guys that I think could literally be like I think Travis Hunter could be way higher than Tet from a perspective of where they could hit ceiling-wise, but I think Tet is more guaranteed to stay a top 15 and top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty, if that makes sense.
We haven't talked about this, but the parallels between Teteroy McMillan and Drake London and Travis Hunter and Garrett Wilson are identical. You know, like we talked about, that draft class, everybody was like, oh, I want the ceiling of Garrett Wilson or the floor of Drake London, right? And right now the answer is both, right? But we've never talked about this, but I literally feel it's the same thing again. Is like, do you want the ceiling of Travis Hunter or do you want the floor of Tedroy McMillan? And I think ultimately, Snoog, the answer is again going to be both. Like, I just think that's where it's at. The last guy here, and this is crazy territory because every single wide receiver we've listed up to this date is 26 years old or younger. We now have 15 elite wide receivers that are under the age of 26. This is the only anomaly in all of fantasy football, is a guy that is getting up there in age, 27, turning 28. But geez, I mean, A.J. Brown is a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Last year, people thought it was a down year. It was elite. 3.45 yards per route run. That was his best, the 7th best all time. All time. Like,
he was so good last year. He just was a baby, so people wrote him off.
Yeah. 14th in receiving yards at 1,079. How many of those wide receivers out of that 14, Snoog, do you think had over 120? He had 120 routes less than any of them. Less than any of them. He ran 120 less routes. 34.28 target percentage, second only to Puka Nacua. Honestly, I don't get it. He just fell to 401 and smashed accept 20. I'm about to scoop him up. A.J. Brown, I don't care. He has a career arc to me, very much like Larry Fitzgerald. I think he's going to play into his 31, 32 and be productive. Maybe not 35, 36 like Fitzgerald, but a guy that from 28 to 32, guys, we always try to jump ahead. We try to get away from that age 30 curve. His value is not going to go up anymore, but his production is going to be elite. So set it and forget it. Now we move to C tier, and C tier is a very small tier because of the way the dynasty landscape is. We only have 2 guys in this. We call them top end wide receiver 2s. Both of them would be wide receiver 1s in almost any team. Both of them are guys that have really high yards per route run. They got touchdowns. They got the volume. They got elite offenses. Both of them are, we're gonna talk about Rashee Rice here first, who I believe just turned 24, 25, and T. Higgins, who's 26 right now. These 2 guys, to me, are just guys that you and I have been scooping up everywhere. Talk to me quick about Rice. I'll talk about Higgins, and then we'll move to D tier, because this is one where you and I, we keep doing shows. We keep talking about buys. We keep talking about pillars. We keep talking about these wide receivers that we're going to build around. These are the kind of guys we're talking about because these 2 are significantly cheaper than everybody else on this list so far.
I'll make it quick. Rashee Rice, elite offense, elite quarterback, Amon-Ra St. Brown role, had elite yards per route run and target per route run numbers, and success rate versus zone was 99th percentile. Small sample size, but flashed like crazy as a rookie as well. We know what he's going to be in this offense. He's a stud. He's that, explosive yak player that's going to get 8 to 10 to 12 targets a game. Patrick Mahomes needs that type of player. He's literally going to replace the Travis Kelce role. Doesn't make any sense, but Kelce was that across the middle of the field threat. Once he goes, it's Rashee Rice time with Worthy stretching the field. So I'm super high on Rice. I like the discount that we're getting with the injury and the suspension issue looming.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen this year. If it happens, It's going to happen next year. It's into a civil case. I'm not worried about it. He's someone that has put up amazing numbers ever since being in the league. I mean, over his last 9 games, he's been 18 plus fantasy points. He's someone that just has killed it. T. Higgins last year, was a top 5 in fantasy points per game. Someone that falls in that area where if you're contending, I'm trying to tier up. I'm trying to move off this next D tier, move up to T. Higgins. Snoog, the D tier is now, this is where it starts to get interesting. You and I build our teams around elite foundational wide receivers. I can honestly tell you, out of my 20 dynasty teams, I have at least 2 of all of these guys on every single one, the guys that we've listed already. I might have one team where I'm rebuilding and I might be loaded with picks and only have Tedroy McMillan or only have JSN. But Snoog, every dynasty team I have out of those 20, it has 2 of these guys. You can set it and forget it. It's a Dynasty Dad approved way. I know it's the way Snoog does it too. This next group, we have some guys that could join this tier. So this is where these are your up and comers. Talk to me about 19 here, because this is one where you're higher than pretty much everybody. And I think I've come around on it. I was a little bit lower than most in rookie drafts. I'm coming around on him. I'm loving the opportunity that if he becomes that main guy for Baker Mayfield in 2026, you're about to see some crazy value.
Yeah, I literally think he's going to be like another Amon-Ra St. Brown type player. I mean, Baker Mayfield's coming off back-to-back 4,000-yard passing seasons in this Buccaneers offense. He's coming off a season where he just had 4,500 yards and 41 passing touchdowns. If you don't think there's enough mouths to feed with Emeka Egbuka joining this group, you're crazy. He's going to have a great year. Chris Godwin's coming off a season-ending leg injury at 28, 29 years old after already tearing his ACL before, having tons of knee injuries, all this. He's always injured, it feels like to me. And I like Chris Godwin. I like the player, but him and Mike Evans, too. Mike Evans with the hamstrings and these injuries lingering. They're getting up there in age. At some point, they got to hang it up. They can't be good forever. That's the game we play. That's the game we love. Emeka Egbuka, it's his time to shine. This team needed so much. Offensive line, defense like crazy. Their defense is horrible. What did they do? They took their 19th overall draft pick, and they went out and drafted a wide receiver after they have Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans. Why did they do that? Because Emeka Egbuka led Ohio State all-time in receptions. He's an elite offensive player that's going to bring 100-plus reception type of talent to this team, where Baker's going to get, his Chris Godwin plus, a bigger, faster Chris Godwin. And the thing I love most about Emeka Egbuka, he catches every single ball thrown his way. He's a leader. He's smart. He's coachable. They're already saying he's a pro's pro. All the receivers on the team, Baker Mayfield's gassing him up. He's just one of those players that you just know is going to be good. There's nothing else to it. The tape, the draft capital, everything checks boxes. So that's why he's my wide receiver 19 in Dynasty.
The next guy I want to talk about, we talked about JSN from his rookie year to his second year. From his second year, like to his third year the biggest thing. And we'll talk about this real quick. Rome Odunze, 54 receptions, 734 yards, 3 touchdowns as the third wide receiver in a Shane Waldron offense, right? The year before that, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 63, 628, 4 as the third wide receiver in a Shane Waldron offense. Shane Waldron is boring as hell. That's a horrible offensive coordinator. Now he gets Ben Johnson as the wide receiver 2, only behind DJ Moore, or a lot of people think even potentially above. I think we see that same meteoric rise that we saw with JSN in 2024. I think it's Rome's turn in 2025. The interesting thing is people are very polarizing on him. So I don't think you have to pay up for that Rome Odunze premium anymore, even though he could be clearly the wide receiver 1 with Caleb Williams. The next couple of guys here, every single one of these guys in this range, Snoog, they got a question mark, right? Rome, it's like, what's the volume going to be? Egbuka, same thing. Now we talk about Devonta Smith. He's got that, he's the number 2 behind A.J. Brown. We got Chris Olave in here. We got the concussion history. We got DJ Moore. What's the volume going to be? Zay Flowers doesn't score touchdowns. DK Metcalf getting up there in age. Xavier Worthy. What's the Rice breakdown? Waddle, Addison, Pickens, Golden, Judy, J-Mo, Tyreek, McLaurin, like all these guys. There's question marks here, right? So, let's start to break this down for people a little bit. Devonta Smith. Sell me on Devonta Smith at 21.
Devonta Smith was on pace for 90 receptions, over 1,100 yards, and 10-plus touchdowns last year. In 13 games, he had 800-plus yards, 8 touchdowns, and 68 receptions. In this run-heavy Eagles offense that just had a historic year where they had over 2,000 rushing yards, this is like the floor of what this Devonta Smith is going to be. What you've seen the past 3 seasons, 95 receptions, 1,196 yards, 7 touchdowns. 81 receptions, 1,066 yards, 7 touchdowns. On pace for over 88 receptions, 1,100 yards, 10-plus touchdowns. He's a guaranteed top 15 to 22 finish every single year, and he's one of the better talents at the wide receiver position in the league. He's just on a run-heavy offense with a run-first quarterback where it hides his true ceiling. If A.J. Brown were to ever miss a whole year, Devonta Smith's finishing top 5 to 10. That's the type of talent and player he is, and you can get him in this range. He's still 26 years old. Another player that, is like that Calvin Ridley elite route runner. You're going to be good for a long time, can do everything, can win downfield, can win out of the slot. I just love Devonta Smith as a player, as a talent, and he has a great situation long-term. And we've been seeing the Eagles' floor as a passing team. if Saquon were to get hurt or this team was to ever take a big hit with the rushing, that passing game's got to go up if they want to be a Super Bowl contender like they have been the past 2 to 3 years. Devontae Smith is a player that I want that has, I think, a higher ceiling and higher floor than most of the guys in this tier.
Yeah, and I would consider him all the way up at 19. My guy here at 22, Chris Olave. So when we talk about breakout wide receivers, the things that I'm trying to identify, right, and the biggest predictors of future success. Number one, target volume and opportunity. He is going to get peppered. He's going to be that number one guy. Number two, a flash of potential in the past. We've seen it, right? Like his rookie year was quite a flash. His year two, just no quarterback. Number three, elite efficiency, 2.15 yards per route run. That's top 10. Next thing I'm looking for is his average depth of target, 9.1, which was the best of his career. And Snoog, my favorite part about Chris Olave is Kellen Moore now. Kellen Moore's slot receivers eat. He had Devonta Smith. He had CeeDee Lamb. He had Keenan Allen. I think this is Chris Olave's breakout year, and I think a lot of people are really worried about the concussion history. I think he stays healthy this year. I think he puts up really good top 15 numbers. Next guy here, and we got a couple more guys in this tier. Then we got like a mini tier break. It's very similar. The next guy, Snoog, if you don't add Luther Burden to the equation, when Ben Johnson comes over, DJ Moore, I mean, I think DJ Moore can finish as a top 12 wide receiver. Does Burden and Loveland drop that to where he's not much more affordable now, or should we be passing?
I think he's guaranteed going to throw up 1,000 yards, 80, 90 receptions and like 8 to 10 touchdowns in this Ben Johnson offense. I think he is going to play the Amon-Ra St. Brown role for them, that powerful, explosive slot player who can also win downfield. I really see it with DJ Moore. I think the production is going to be really good there. The only thing holding him back from being any higher is his age. I think 28 years old really can't gain that much more value. But Ben Johnson, elite quarterback play with Caleb Williams, and a team that's just rising tremendously, and him being basically the only damn vet on this offense. I think that it's just all joins to combine to be a good situation and team opportunity for DJ Moore. I mean, we've seen the ceiling of 1,300 yards in 2023 with Justin Fields, and we've seen 900 to 1,100 yards in every single season he's ever been a part of with terrible quarterback play on terrible offenses. So he has the floor and he has the ceiling to be a top 5 receiver, and he has the floor to be a top 25 guy. So that's why I like DJ Moore here. I think he gives you the best blend of upside and floor in this tier out of the guys that we're going to talk about next.
Next guy I have is a potential breakout candidate. That's Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, as a rookie, 77, 858, and 5. Last year, 75, 10, 59, and 4. The touchdowns are what really jumps out to me. But you look at him, 2.34 yards per route run. That's important to me. That's top 20. Target share, 25.7. That's top 20. 116 targets, top 20. 23 deep targets. That's top 12. 463 yak. That's top 10. He's the clear number one for the Baltimore Ravens. If you even get a glimpse of an 8 touchdown season from Zay Flowers, he will finish as a top 12 wide receiver. He is going to be a guy that you've already seen the floor for 2 straight years. I think year 3, we're going to see 80 plus receptions, 1,100 plus yards. And if we see the touchdowns, his value is going to spike. And I think a lot of people have just already written him off as they've seen 2 seasons that are similar, and now they don't want to go ahead and predict that with the third. We saw 2 similar seasons for CeeDee Lamb before he exploded. Not the same talent, but I think Zay Flowers is a breakout candidate. The next guy got to be on the rise, right? Like we used to talk about A.J. Brown and this guy both coming out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, DK Metcalf is a guy that I think is going to blow up with Aaron Rodgers in this offense with literally no one else for him to throw the football to. He's that big, fast, explosive, deep threat that's going to score a ton of touchdowns and be a target hog in this Steelers offense that wants to run the ball, but they're going to run the ball, take the deep shot. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks at doing that. I don't care if he's old, washed. He's got the mentality. He still can throw the deep ball. We saw it last year with Adams and Garrett Wilson. He supported 2 top 12 finishing wide receivers between the 2 of those guys. DK Metcalf, to me, can be a top 15 finisher, and I think he's a great value where he's going. And we've seen the upside. He has those big weeks where he could single-handedly win you a week with a 40-point game. So I think DK Metcalf is going to be a great value, good player, good situation to thrive. You don't love a team with Arthur Smith as the OC, but him and Rodgers are going to do damage together.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy for me at the next one here, I think is good value. He exploded down the stretch when Rashee Rice was out. I really think that we could see Xavier Worthy be a nice complementary piece, be the Devonta Smith next to him here. I think he's fine at that 26 spot. And for me, there's two more guys here that are really close in this particular tier, but I have Worthy slightly ahead of these next couple of guys. So hit me up. You have one more guy. I have one more guy in this tier. Then we'll move down to our next tier.
For me, it's Jalen Waddle. I love me some Jalen Waddle. I think the bounce back's coming. We can't forget that this guy literally put up 1,000+ yards and 100+ receptions as a rookie, just one of 5 to ever do that. Comes out the next year, 1,300+ yards, finishes as the top 8 wide receiver in fantasy football with over 75 receptions, hyper efficient on 18 yards per catch. The next year, misses 3.5 games, still puts up 1,000 yards on 70 receptions, hyper efficient on only 100 targets. The year after that, 2024, you can't judge that Dolphins offense at all. They were all terrible. The whole offense was terrible besides A-Chain, because Tua was hurt for literally most of the year, and that team just crumbled. Healthy Tua means A-Chain, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. With the departure of Jonnu Smith taking all those screens, these three are going to thrive in this offense with a healthy Tua, and they're going to – this is an offense that in 2022 and 2023 – we thought was one of the best offenses, and we thought Mike McDaniels was one of the best offensive-minded coaches and an absolute genius. Don't forget what that team did, what that offense could do with these playmakers.
And what's interesting here is the next guy as a wide receiver 28. I have considerably over Waddle, but where I have him up is you could see as high as maybe 24 if we didn't have this suspension looming for his DUI. But Jordan Addison, still just 23 years old. One of 5 wide receivers, Snoog, since 2006 to record 1,300 yards, 1,700 yards, and 19 touchdowns over his first 2 years. We're looking at Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. Addison's someone that I think if he was a wide receiver 1 in a lot of different teams, but you see what he was able to do, 13+ fantasy points per game across his first 2 years, 20 total touchdowns. I mean, give me Jordan Addison, and then give me a slight tier break here. So we're moving down to our F tier. I think we have a couple of guys here where really could emerge. You know, we've done 28 wide receivers. F tier, these are your set it wide receiver 2s, you know, a little bit more risky, but there's a guy here that really got an uptick over the last couple of months. Sell me on your wide receiver 29.
Yeah, it's George Pickens. I think his situation in this Dallas Cowboys offense with Dak Prescott alongside CeeDee Lamb, he's going to be that Allen Robinson, you know, that type of receiver that puts up 1,100, 1,200 yards, scores 8 to 10 touchdowns on like 70, 80 receptions. Dak's done it before with Amari and CD and Michael Gallup, all putting up big years. He's done it with multiple different options. He can be a guy that throws for 4,500 yards, and if that's the case, it's literally going to be the Dak, Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb show. There's nobody else. Sure, Jake Ferguson, but he's so mid. He's not an elite talent or even a great talent like a George Pickens or like a CeeDee Lamb. So I think they're going to dominate the target share. He's playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with, and he's going to have a big year. He's done it with the Steelers, 1,100+ yards on that horrible offense. So I think he's got it.
Yeah, and I think this wide receiver 29 to 35 that we're going to list, we have them worth a late first. Now that, and I got to preface this, in 2025, none of them are worth a first. They're worth the 201. In 2026, which is a down year, I think you're going to see these guys are all worth a first in that. For me, the next guy is Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden, elite athletic profile, guy that ran a 4.29 40, can absolutely fly. Round 1 draft capital, a projected target volume on an elite scoring offense with a quarterback who threw 4th most passing touchdowns combined in 2023 and 2024. Honestly, if you believe in the talent, this is someone that should shoot up the board for you. The next guy, a little bit older, you know, you got Jerry Jeudy in there at 31. He finally had his breakout. And now I think for some reason people are trying to figure out an issue why he shouldn't be a top wide receiver.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy coming off 1,200+ yards and 90+ receptions. He finally gave us that breakout year we've been waiting for since he was drafted. He was neck and neck with CeeDee Lamb as a prospect coming out. It was this big debate. Who's the better player? I think Jeudy actually went over him in the draft right after Ruggs. So it's nice to see Judy finally live up to the hype, because I always knew he had the talent and the skill set and the separating skills to be that type of player that, especially with the way the league's elevating with slot wide receivers. Jerry Judy's that guy. He's the Browns' #1 clear-cut guy. He's going to have another 1,100, 1,200, 1,300-yard season. And hopefully Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for him, because I do think it's going to help take Jerry Judy to the next level again, like Jameis did.
This is a guy I know you're not in on, but I am. I mean, I think there's a multitude of reasons why. But Jameson Williams, the only wide receiver to finish with over 1,000 yards last year, under 95 targets. Weeks 11 through 18, he was the wide receiver 14. 38 receptions, 587 yards, 5 touchdowns during that time. Snoog, he's a best ball dream. The only guy that finished inside the top 20 wide receivers with less. He had a 16.5% target share. I think we see a breakout here. The next part of that is we're talking contract year. You know, you and I love guys in contract years. If he goes somewhere else, he has wide receiver 1 upside. But I think in this offense, I think it's the ultimate, you know, it's that T. Higgins thing, right? If T. Higgins ever left, is he better? We don't know. I think Jameson Williams, I think they lock him up long-term, but you just saw a glimpse of what he can see. 58, 1,000, 9 touchdowns. And I think this was the year that he finally put it together, because he had the suspensions. He had the injuries. This year he put it together. I think in 2025 it's going to be even better. Going from one of the younger guys on this list to clearly the oldest guy on this list. But now that Jonnu Smith is gone, you have to put Tyreek Hill back up here.
Yeah, this is the guy that's coming off an injury and coming off a team, like I said, but the quarterback that was injured. He's a year removed from back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons and over 119 receptions. It's that easy. I don't need to say you anymore on Tyreek Hill, one of the best wide receivers of this past friggin' decade, one of the fastest wide receivers to play the game. Like, he is elite, tied to Tua in that offense with Mike McDaniels. They know he's the top playmaker on this team. When he's healthy, when Tua's healthy, you get top 5 production. That's why Tyreek Hill still deserves to be in the top 35.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. And I think my last guy on this particular list is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has an elite quarterback. He had it finally. The writing was on the wall. What was going to happen when Terry McLaurin got that right quarterback? Right, he was always over 1,000 yards, perennial in that spot where you had to try to get him added. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, he had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, most receptions since 2020, 13 plus touchdowns. This is someone that Snoog, he's still a buy. You know, 15.8 fantasy points per game was his career best. He's turning 30 years old, so people start to dip him down. But I still think he's a great value in Dynasty, as is this last guy. You and I have been on Brandon Ayuk. He's not a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, but now you don't have to pay it.
He has the contract tied to Brock Purdy in this offense, that elite wide receiver 1 contract tied to Kyle Shanahan. He's literally the clear-cut #1 option behind George Kittle in this offense as a receiver, and he's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 on this offense as a receiver. The injury discount is giving us Brandon Ayuk as a top. He was such a good route runner. He was such a good separator. He had a bad year. It happens sometimes, but for me, this player is going to be a stud and bounce back. At this cost, there's no risk. Like, there's literally no risk at wide receiver 35 cost for a player with this type of upside and this type of situation. And in worst case, he gives you 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. You get a wide receiver 2 at the price of a wide receiver 3.
Love that. Guys, this has been a fun show. You know, we covered our running backs, our tiers in there. Make sure you check that out. Our guy, Brock Dynasty, did a killer edit on that. He's going to do it on this one. Going to make it look something special for you guys. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the process.